Well, thank you, Bob, for joining us once more. Today's topic is about from insight to action, the courage to diagnose and transform your organization. In previous conversations, we've explored the importance of understanding the health of an organization, particularly through structured diagnostics, similar to an annual physical. However, insight alone does not create impact. We've all known that, right? But the real difference between organizations that grow and those that struggle is actually the ability to face reality with clarity, to identify root causes, to take disciplined action, partner with the right expertise to execute change. So this session focuses on the courage to actually diagnose and the importance of having a trusted HR partner to turn insight into actual measurable results. So Bob, let's get right to it and let's talk a little bit about the courage to see reality. And in your experience, why do some leaders hesitate to take a deep, honest look, and what really happens inside their organization?
Most leaders have a lot of confidence. They possess two things: confidence and financial responsibility, and perhaps they take a very frugal approach to business. I'm the same way. I'm fairly confident, and I've actually been tried to be very cognizant of expenses and not overspend. So that blend of confidence and sort of frugalness, I won't call it cheapness, watching the pennies, watching the nickels and so forth, can prevent us from actually taking steps that will benefit our company and ourselves and our shareholders. Since most leaders do possess a lot of confidence in their ability to solve their own problems and grow successfully, because of that confidence, they take an inside out view instead of taking guidance from those that have either been there before or could provide that outside in view and actually have an objective viewpoint of what's actually going on in the company. It's that whole story about when you're in the forest cutting trees, you never see the forest. You're just in there cutting down the trees. So sometimes it's very important to step back and actually take the time to view the forest through the trees. So guidance from people that have done it before, advisory from people that actually have been successful in business is actually quite important. And also guidance from teams that can provide insight into areas where the leader is perhaps not as strong. The leaders sometimes have a product idea or a service idea, and they're really good at that product or they're really good at that service, but they might not have a lot of experience building people organizations that are aligned and culturally strong and collaborative and meet frequently and want to work together. So finding those people that actually have been there and done that before, and having them come in and help you in areas where you need help. First of all, you got to recognize that you need help. That does take diagnostic work. You've got to actually ask for feedback. You've got to find somebody that comes in from the outside. For example, think about pricing and packaging for a product or service. How do I price this so it's not too much, but it's making enough that I'm going to have a good margin? And how do I package this? Do I provide options and the options cost more? Do I provide it all as a bundle package? That is a whole science to pricing and packaging that personally I have a lot of experience in business, primarily in business development and sales, and then general management, but not really in pricing and packaging. So wouldn't it make sense to tap into a team that does nothing but that, to help you set appropriate price terms for your product or service? That team has deep experience in evaluating the value and return on investment for customers of your products and services, to existing customers, also to prospects, and also they can evaluate through surveys competitors' customers. That's what they do. They synthesize the data and create compelling options for you to consider. We use outside groups like Simon Kucher, very famous pricing and packaging consulting company, does unbelievable work in terms of helping a company to figure out how to price and package their services and products so that they actually are winning in the marketplace and not losing because of price. So if you don't have the talent in your organization to do that, you need to find it elsewhere, and you've got to get it, or you will be at a steady disadvantage in your market because you may just leave the price where it is all the time, and you're living in a constantly increasing cost of living. I think it's even more true when you talk about managing people, which really is not the first thing that people think about when they start a business. They think about the problem that they're solving for prospects and for customers that they're solving it for, and they get into business to do that. But we are really so focused on trying to sell something at a price that makes us money and keep in business and raise money, that we really don't think about or realize that the people that you bring in with you are going to be the key to your success. So in my first company, which I started 40 years ago, I nearly didn't make it because I thought that I needed to make all the decisions for the company. Growth slowed, teamwork was not that good. We were missing operating plan. The board was not happy. I had venture capital involved, and the board suggested to me that we should probably get a new CEO, somebody that's experienced and has done this before. This is about, I guess I was 4 years running the company at that point. It was growing, but not that fast. Should have been growing faster. And I had thought should grow at 40%. It was only growing at 20%. And it should have been growing at 40%. So the board literally approached me and said, I think it's time to bring in a new CEO. I suggested that they give me the chance to turn it around, to get it back on its right legs. Give me 9 months, and if I didn't get it to where it should be on the plan in 9 months, then I would take myself out, because I was a big shareholder and I wanted success as well. If another CEO was better at it than I would be, bring it on. But I wanted to try it, so I wanted to try to fix it. And at that point, I realized I need help. So I brought in two consulting teams. I brought in a strategic consultant named John, and I brought in an HR consulting firm. It was two women, actually, both of the names were Catherines, one with a C and one with a K. Strangely, in one half-day session, John, the strategic consultant, kind of think McKinsey type, but at a lower budget, in one half day, we mapped out a better structure. I didn't realize it at the time, but I had built a sales organization that was geographic and expensive, and they were selling to a variety of different markets. I really should have had a much smaller sales force that was targeting individuals that were just targeting one market. And then by doing it that way, I was able to really have a sales team that was half the size. Very big restructuring took place in the sales side because of that, and it worked tremendously. The other side was I was making all the decisions in everything: marketing, operations, warehousing, shipping, product, and I didn't have the expertise to be making those decisions. I actually did have some people in my company that had that expertise, but I wasn't giving them the chance to actually make those decisions and drive those initiatives the way that they should have been. So that got explained to me by the two Catherines. They actually took us off site for a couple of days. It was actually an on site, if you know what I mean, but it was an shut your phones off. And this was a time before cell phones, by the way. So it was like, but don't answer the phone. And we're going to be in a room, and we're going to figure out what we're doing wrong and how we could be better. And I just admitted that I didn't really know what I was doing. It was my first time as a CEO. I thought I had to make all the decisions, but I'm realizing now that I didn't, and that we need to make decisions as a team, or I need to leave those decisions to the functional area. People decisions should be the HR person. Marketing decisions should be the marketing person. Maybe it was marketing and sales. So I stepped back and decided that with the help of the outside firm, the two Catherines, I realized that me not making the decisions was going to help everybody else grow and help the company scale up. And it was really just my lack of experience and my abundance of confidence that I was doing it, and it shouldn't have been. I shouldn't have been as confident as I was, misleading myself that I was better at making all these decisions than the people that actually had experience in those areas. So we reorganized the companies. I pushed the decision making away from myself, and we started to operate as a team. We were growing about 20%. We immediately started growing faster. We started growing at 35%. Even though we were larger, so it's harder as you get larger to grow at a higher rate, but we actually did. became more profitable, and it became a big success. And why? Because I got out of my own way and I asked for help. So part of my problem was confidence. Another part of my problem was being too cheap to take and pay somebody from the outside to actually give me an honest, objective assessment of what the inside looked like at my company. And that really helped me see why I didn't seek outside counsel before it got dire. It was just pure ignorance and lack of experience. Now I sit on boards, 6 boards, and we always use outside people to come in and help us. One of my boards is already used Arka HR to help them in the organizational development. This is how you become successful, is by getting outside perspectives. That way you don't have to hire all these people. You actually get to use them for a project, or you could use them as a fractional consult regular basis on a sustained basis, but you don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money to get a lot of impact. I was penny wise and pound foolish, and I realized then that if you don't know how to do something, you better bring in people to help you do it.
Yes.
There will be a big payoff in the long run.
Yes. Leaders, they hesitate, and they hesitate due to fear of what they'll find, lack of time, overconfidence in current systems. I have to add ego. Bringing an outside entity, I will say that that is a secret sauce. Many organizations, they don't see through it, but once they do get someone, such as Arka, the value and the impact is unmeasurable. Because clarity can be uncomfortable, but it's also the starting point for improvement. So, Bob, why insight alone is not enough? Many organizations, they recognize their challenges, but don't always act on them. Why do you think insight alone is often not enough to drive meaningful change?
Yeah, so you gain the insights. As a confident entrepreneur and leader, we frequently, when we think we have a problem, we think we're going to be able to solve it, and we don't really know how to solve it, so we don't solve it. And I would say, from my experience, that when you think you have a problem, you do. If you think you have a problem, you do, and it's 3 times worse than you think it is. So you better get at it, because bad news doesn't get better with age. It's not like wine or cheese. It's bad. When it's bad, it's going to get worse before it gets better. So you've got to take action when you've got a problem. We're reluctant to get outside help, partially because it costs money. We think it's going to cost money, and that's going to hurt us in terms of making our plan. The truth is, if you don't solve the problem, you're on a long-term decline path. You need to solve the problems when they're happening immediately, or you're going to start to go down a spiral. People observe. If you see a problem in your company or your organization, so does all your other good people. If you've got a person that isn't quite catching on, isn't carrying the weight around as others are, other people are making up for the mistakes, other people are doing the work that person should be doing, and everybody's observing it. You know it, and that causes negative morale, and that causes people to talk to each other and say, why isn't Bob making a change here? Is it his cousin? Is it a grandson? Who's in the, I mean, why is this? I mean, is it a relation? What's going on here? The observables are very demoralizing. The observable negatives in the company are very demoralizing. That's why, remember, A players want to work with A players. And if you're going to keep A players, you've got to surround them with A players. So you can't tolerate C players. It's going to pull you down. My guidance is do whatever you need to do to right the ship immediately when you see a problem.
Yes. This is where many organizations get stuck, right? They know, but they don't transform. They do nothing about it, and that hurts. Hurts them more than they realize. Let's talk a little bit about the role of a strategic HR partner. What role does having the right external partner play when organizations are trying to address people, leadership, and even performance challenges?
Well, the right strategic partner in HR can help you level set your existing organization by helping you to assess the existing organization and your current systems and processes call it a gap analysis that actually will identify where you are versus best practices. Take a simple example like employee turnover or churn. If you have more than 25% of your employees leaving per year, that's incredibly expensive. Every employee that leaves that you have to replace, you've got to go do a search, you've got time that person is gone for that other people are making up for. You've got to bring in temporary help. I mean, so employee retention is really important. And I think that a good benchmark is that you want to be north of 80% employee retention. Remember, employee retention drives customer retention. You bring in new employees, they don't know as well what they should be doing with the customers. Customers suffer. Customers sometimes leave because they're suffering because you lost a key employee. So you've got to keep your key employee. Using an outside HR firm like Arka HR is going to provide you with a guideline of where you need to bridge the gaps between where you are today and best practices. They will help you put together a checklist of things that drive your roadmap to a better result and better organization, more well-being in your organization, better motivation, better culture. Creating a cohesive, highly functional team requires strong leadership and a system to help guide that leadership. The thing is, strong leadership doesn't mean you need to be the smartest person in the room. In fact, I am living proof that you don't have to be. A player as a leader is somebody that recruits people that are smarter than her or him so that we can do less work. We can be more around strategy, more around alignment, more around communication, about culture, about wandering around and making sure people are enjoying themselves, people that don't have barriers that you can help them remove. So it gives you the leader that has the freedom to actually roam within the organization is a much stronger leader than a leader that has to sit behind the desk and make all of the decisions and do all the analysis. That's not what you want. You want to lead from the field. You want to lead from within the company by being with people. As an example, as a CEO, I never would have a call with a customer or a prospect or a partner or a board member. Well, I would have some calls with board members alone, but not with a partner or with a customer or a prospect without somebody else within the company on the phone with me. For two reasons. One, they know more about the product and the service than I do, and they can be very helpful. And I'm making that introduction because on the other side of the call, I'm probably not going to be available. But the other reason is it's developmental. I might say something that my colleague in the company didn't know or appreciate it as a good way to get somebody else to speak. I'm a person that likes to build rapport with customers and with prospects, which means speaking about themselves outside of their business, literally building personal rapport. Like, where are you from? What's your family like? Do you have a family now? Where have you been? Where are you now? And where are you going? Outside of the business. What do you do in your spare time? What's your perfect day outside of work? Those types of questions that get the person talking, and then you share your own thoughts about what's a perfect day for you. And now you're developing a friendship, a relationship, and relationships are what build strong partnerships and strong customer vendor relationships over time, right? I just think that as soon as you relinquish the power and by delegating and asking somebody else to do it with you or do it instead of you, you're setting yourself free. And a strong HR partner like Arka can help you design a roadmap that gets you there and gets your team taking on the reins that you're carrying right now.
Yes, yes, for sure. I believe that a strong partner, they help you with diagnosing, prioritizing, execution, and also even sustaining the change. So, Bob, let's talk a little bit about business impact of taking action. What changes have you seen in organizations that actually take action after identifying their gaps?
I can use my first company as an example, which was Microfridge. That company became very successful, but I almost lost it. I almost was thrown out by the board as the CEO. It was my idea. It was my first company. Once you start to create true teamwork with a broader group of people, positive change starts to happen immediately. I mean, it really does. It's obvious. The vibe changes, it becomes friendlier, collaboration becomes natural. People are talking with each other, people are meeting with each other to try to solve problems because you're encouraging them to solve the problems. Like we talked about in one of the other sessions about Ralph Steyer saying, I'm not going to fix the sausage making machine. You guys fix it. And they fixed it. And that's how they grew and that's how they learned. And that's how he got to do less in terms of all of the work that he didn't understand and more of managing and bringing in better people and bringing in and helping to develop the people as the people were developing themselves. So the vibe becomes friendlier, collaboration's better, problems are solved through teamwork. When mistakes are made, we acknowledge it, we learn from them, and we grow. It reminds me of the story of a successful leader who was speaking to a room full of smart, ambitious MBA students. And one of the MBA students asked, I want to be successful like you. I want to know what the secret is to success. The successful entrepreneur or leader said, well, that's easy. Make good business decisions. Are there any other questions? And the person says, well, that wasn't that helpful. I mean, make good business decisions. That sounds like an obvious answer, but how do you make good business decisions? Well, that's easy. Experience, good experience. And the person says, yeah, I'm in a little bit of a rush here. I'm not trying to spend my life trying to figure this out. I'm trying to get some tips from you that help me move this along a little bit faster. He says, how do you get that good experience? At that point, I was frustrated and said, listen, how do I get the good experience, please? And the exec says, oh, that's obvious. Make bad business decisions. And that's true. That's how we grow. But if you don't allow your people and yourself to make small mistakes, you don't want to make huge, expensive mistakes. You want to test things all the time. An adage today, particularly in technology, about fail fast. But failing fast in whatever you do is good. Fail means you don't do it again. You learn from it, and now you can succeed by doing it the right way. So testing various opportunities and trying things that may or may not work, but you have an educated guess that you think they're going to work, trying it, and if it fails, that's good. That means you don't have to do that again. And that gives you an opportunity to do the right thing. So part of the game here as an exec is to actually allow people to make mistakes, try to keep them in the fairway so that you're not always in the rough cutting down trees. You've got to try to keep the mistakes small enough that you can easily recover, learn something from it, and get better and better and better. And that's how we grow. We do grow by making mistakes. Think about skiing. If anybody does snow skiing, you take a lot of falls in the beginning, but that's how you get better. So you're falling because you're making a mistake. You don't know better, but you don't get to be good unless you actually keep trying and keep getting more aggressive and keep going down steeper slopes and keep falling. And that's how you become a very good skier. Same thing in business.
Yes, yes. And I think that some of the expected outcomes that come out of executives taking actions after identifying their gap are improved retention, stronger leadership alignment, better performance, more predictable execution. This is where organizations actually begin to see the real ROI from their people systems. So, like always, Bob, give us an advice for leaders who are ready to move forward, for leaders who are aware that there might be gaps in their organizations. What would you recommend as the first step to move from awareness to action?
If you're growing the way you want to be growing and you've got the profitability that is fantastic, your team works well together like a Swiss watch, everybody loves each other, they're collaborating, they're making team decisions. You don't have that much to do. You're just basically a cheerleader and you're the leader. I don't think you have a problem. But if you're losing people that you don't want to lose, if you're not gaining share in your market and you're losing share and losing customers to competitors, if your churn is high, like you're losing key employees and you're losing key customers, somehow that goes together frequently, and you're not sure whether you've got an opportunity to improve your HR and improve your people side of your business, if you're not sure, you probably should get sure. And I would suggest you get an assessment. I mean, start small. Hire Arka HR or somebody like Arka HR that can help you do a little gap analysis, which doesn't cost very much, to actually provide you with insight as to how your people see you and the company. Have the courage, take the step, and do it quickly. Because the longer you wait, remember, bad news doesn't get better with age. The longer you wait, the worse it gets.
I appreciate that word, courage. Thank you, Bob. What we've explored today is that understanding your organization is only the first step, but the real impact comes from what you actually do next. In our experience, organizations that create meaningful progress do three things well. They seek clarity through structured evaluation, they align around clear priorities and outcomes, and they commit to execution with the right support. And so at Arca HR, we approach this through four critical areas: talent and retention, morale and culture, performance and accountability, and compliance and organizational structure. These areas give leaders a competitive picture of where their organization stands and where the greatest opportunities exist. But even more importantly, they allow us to move beyond diagnosis into structured, measurable transformation. But ultimately, leaders are not looking for insights. They're actually looking for stronger teams, those A players, better performance, higher retention, more predictable growth. And that's where having the right partner makes all of the difference. Thank you, Bob, for allowing us to have these candid conversations. And for everyone listening, remember, have the courage. Do seek outside counsel. At Arca HR, this is what we do. We are HR professionals with years of experience. We work with all sorts of organizations, multilingual, multicultural, and we can definitely help strengthen your people, processes, and culture. Thank you, Bob.
Totally agree with you. Get some help.
Thank you.
Andrea, always a pleasure.